The affirmative task we have now is to create a new world order.
Daniel 11, verses 42 and 43. He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his stead.
Coming up, if you don't live in a major metro area, you might want to pack your bags. Years ago, moving to the suburbs was a sign that you were making a better life for yourself and your family. But our next guest details a government report suggesting there may be a long-term plan to change all that for you. The effort to, quote, Manhattanize America. Next. Well, if you live in the suburbs, don't get too comfy. Our next guest says the Obama administration has plans to push Americans slowly but surely out of the burbs and into the big cities as a means to, quote, spread the wealth around. Joining us now is Stanley Kurtz. He's author of Spreading the Wealth, How Obama is Robbing the Suburbs to Pay for the City. And this isn't based on your book, this claim. This is based on something you actually saw President Obama and the administration do last week. Explain, Stan.
Well, that's right, Megan. It looks like President Obama's plans to fight global warming are going to hurt America's suburbs. And that's because the Obama administration believes in something called smart growth. Now, the idea of smart growth policies is that you should get out of your car, don't move to the suburbs, you should live in a tiny, densely packed apartment building in the city where you would walk and take public transportation, don't drive. And that's smart growth, and the Obama administration is gearing up to impose these smart growth policies on the country, and that would be bad for America's suburbs.
How would they do it? How would they make us move from the suburbs to the city? Because most of the folks who live in the suburbs like the suburbs. They don't want to live in the city. How would they make us do it?
Well, there are several plans, Megan, and part of the idea is just to stop people from moving out to the suburbs in the first place. But in the end, it might even get some people who are living in suburbs to head to the cities. Last week, the Energy Department released a series of reports that touted a new strategy for cutting back on carbon dioxide emissions. The idea is to make all federal funding conditional on adherence to these smart growth principles. So let's say the federal government is thinking of funding a new school or a new highway. Well, if this idea goes through, the government would say, let's look at the population density. If you've got a high population density, we'll give you the federal money. If you don't, you're not going to get the money. And that would start channeling new development away from the suburbs and into the cities. And if you think about it, it's actually a way of redistributing the wealth of the suburbs to the cities.
This is an actual proposal that was put forward?
Well, a report came out called Transportation Energy Futures, and one of these reports floated this proposal. At this stage, it's a trial balloon, I think you could say, but there's another similar proposal that, according to a news report, the Obama administration has already decided on. And that is that the Obama administration, for the first time, is going to tell every agency of the federal government to consider carbon dioxide emissions before they give environmental approval to big projects. And that could mean big delays, big challenges, maybe even the elimination of some, say, highway construction projects out into the suburbs. So if you want to have that traffic congestion relieved on your suburban commute, or maybe opening up a new area for suburban development with a highway, that could be delayed and possibly even blocked by these new regulations, and that again would tend to channel development away from the suburbs and back to the cities.
Now, you talk in your piece, which was posted on National Review Online, about how, yes, of course, this focuses in part, this initiative that's been proposed focuses in part on greenhouse gas emissions and making the environment more green, and, you know, your carbon footprint when you live in a little 800 square foot apartment in Manhattan is much, much smaller than if you live in, you know, a 3,000 square foot home in the burbs. So that's clear. That could be one of the goals. But you also say that this is about wealth redistribution on a grand scale. How so? How is it a redistribution of wealth?
Well, that's what I talk about in the book, Megan. If you go back to Obama's whole political history, people don't realize it, but he's been a big backer of a movement called regionalism. The whole idea of regionalism is that there's something fundamentally unfair about the very existence of suburbs, because when people move out to suburbs, they take their tax money with them. And President Obama and some of the people he used to work with in his political career believed that that was somehow unfair to the cities. So if you put in these smart growth policies and you say it's all about carbon dioxide and global warming, you still are channeling all that federal money, which comes from all of our taxes after all, into the cities and away from the suburbs. And that's a way of redistributing wealth from the suburbs to the cities. And in the mind of these advocates of regionalism that Obama has always worked with, this is a way of redistributing money back away from the suburbs and into the cities.
But you still, I mean, you still have the same crop of people. So if you're forcing folks who live in the suburbs to eventually move back into the city, or people who live in the city not to move out to the suburbs, it's still the same people. You're not going to change their... You call it an effort to Manhattanize America. And a lot of our viewers won't like the thought of that, since there's a reason they've chosen not to live in Manhattan, and it's not just the, you know, lockjam traffic at rush hour and the taxi cabs and the pollution and all that. Sorry, Mayor Bloomberg, but you know what I'm talking about. And they don't necessarily want Iowa to look like Manhattan. But in any event, Stanley, very interesting hearing your perspective. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Megan.
Genesis 47. You believe that the book of Genesis is for the end of the world? If God says, I declare the end from the beginning, Genesis is the book of beginnings. Revelation is the book of endings. There's nothing left but our bodies. By us and our lands. We'll become servants to Pharaoh. We'll become bond servants to Pharaoh, the son of Ra, the son of God, the Antichrist. We'll receive the mark of Antichrist, because every servant received a mark that he was a servant. Buy us and our lands, and save our lives, that we die not before thee. Notice he buys up all the land, all the money is failed, all the cars, all the material possessions. Verse 21, and as for the people, he removed them to cities from one end of the borders of Egypt even to the other end thereof. Wait a minute. How did he remove them into the cities? Where were they before? Oh, they were in the country. But they're going to be moved into the cities. You still don't believe that Daniel 11:40-45 is the message of the hour? You still don't believe that it's the third angel's message? Verse 22, only the land of the priests bought he not, for the priests had a portion assigned of Pharaoh, and did eat their portion with Pharaoh, gave them, wherefore they sold not their lands. Then Joseph said unto the people, behold, I have bought you this day, and your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the increase that ye shall give the fifth part unto Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be your own for seed of the field, and for your food, and for them of your households, and for the food of your little ones. And they said, thou hast saved our lives. Let us find grace in thy sight, O my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt unto this day, that Pharaoh should have the fifth parts, except the land of the priests only, which became not Pharaoh's. And the priests, the reason why the priests didn't sell their land, because they were already bought. Joseph made it a law. Pharaoh here at the end of the world represents the papacy. Who's the one that's doing all the transactions for him? Who's the one that's controlling the buying and the selling? It's Joseph, but Joseph represents here the United States of America. It's Revelation 13 when the money of Egypt fails. If you still don't believe that these things are for us and about us, then you're under strong delusion. You're in darkness. You are closing your eyes and shutting your ears, lest you would hear and would convert and be healed and be saved. It is too late in the great controversy to be wondering and doubting. It's taking place all around us, even now as I speak.
The power behind the scenes secret societies. Notice what is Skull and Bones, Illuminati, Masons, and all them groups. They have one master. Notice the New World Order. It's almost complete.
But I offered myself that we needed a New World Order.
Pope Benedict XVI is calling for a new world financial order in the third encyclical of his pontificate.
Globalized economy. The document was released just hours before the G8 summit.
I'm also going to start with a mark of the beast that they already have in White House. So be more patient and All they have to do is enforcing their law, and the whole thing is combined with religion.
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
Unfortunate friends, if you don't understand their final goal, you're gonna be doomed. But the good news is, if you know their final goal, you can escape what's about to happen. Some people will show you some of the secret societies, but unfortunately they don't tell you the power behind the scene, and the whole world afraid because they don't know what to do. Today you're gonna find out. Watch the whole video.
At the Vatican today, a warm greeting for President Obama from Pope Benedict XVI.
It's a great honor for me. Thank you so much.
New world order is emerging.
When really a new world order can be created, it's a great opportunity.
When all who wear America's uniform remain the cornerstone of our national defense, the anchor of global security. We have to shape an international order that can meet the challenges of our generation. The international order we seek is one that can resolve the challenges of our times.
A new world order is emerging. Gordon Brown's verdict as he closes the G20 summit. From America to Ethiopia, they all signed up to a $1 trillion boost for world trade. We'll have reaction around the world and ask what it means for Britain, also tonight.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
It is a new world order with significantly different...
Well, there have been extraordinary scenes in Berlin tonight as thousands of people gathered to hear Barack Obama deliver key foreign policy speech on his current European tour. The Democratic presidential hopeful laid out his vision for America's place in a new world order, saying he was speaking as a proud citizen.
Pope Francis is a first in many ways, the first Jesuit pope, the first pope from the New World, and the first one to take the name Francis. As Jorge Mario Bergoglio, he lived in a simple apartment. As Argentina's top church official, he opposed Argentina becoming the first Latin American country to legalize gay marriage. He opposed euthanasia and giving away free birth control. Many thought his age of 76 would rule him out this time. He is now the leader of more than 1 billion Catholics around the world. And as the world found out the name and identity of the new pope, there were cheers.
Wake up the whole world. Now is the high time to awake out of sleep. Friends, I'm gonna give you a little history. Constantine was the one who united the church and stayed together. Notice, during dark ages, pagan Rome, when he marched them to Tiber River, they said they was baptized. So when they came to the church, there was idol statue worshippers. So when they brought their statues in Roman Catholic Church, they start naming them Christian name, Jupiter and all this thing. They call them Peter and Rosary and all this paganism that they brought to Roman Catholic Church. And some of the Christians they don't like, so they protest against. That's why they call them Protestants or Protestant. So they set up their Jesuit order during 1500. The reason they set their Jesuit order is to destroy the Christians that they protest against their paganism.
I'm tired of people saying Christianity is a crutch. It's not a crutch, it's a cross. This planet is covered in blood as a consequence of people who stood for righteousness and truth.
They also infiltrate the state to control the whole world. The Jesuits, they created Masons, and now they got Skull and Bones, Illuminatis, all them secret societies, friends. And what is Obama and all them powers, they all belong to secret societies. I love everybody. I don't have a choice if I want to go to heaven, but I got to tell you the truth.
He wrote, we must move as quickly as possible to a one-world government, a one-world religion, under a one-world leader.
So as he began to travel the world, over 100 trips in his 25 years, the world was watching. His first trip to a conference in Mexico in 1979 instantly transformed the world's idea of the papacy. Some 5 million jubilant people in one crowd, it was said to be the largest ever. Among those surprised was John Paul himself.
The whole thing is tied with Bible. The church and state is going to unite in the last days, and they will bring the mark of the beast that the Bible says. So notice.
Your conference done?
I did, your old country.
Yes.
And it was successful.
Successful? We have some decisions. It's not so easy to respond.
The Iraq War has been another foreign policy challenge, beginning with John Paul's papacy. Other foreign policy priorities for Benedict include pushing for peace in the Holy Land and decrying rising secularism in Europe. He's also been quietly working to establish relations, something that was not possible during the last papacy, largely because of John Paul's role in the fall of communism in Poland.
The Chinese obviously didn't want John Paul II running around China doing the same thing. Pope Benedict is not that kind of a threat to China.
Most of the time, in places around the world, Vatican diplomats work outside the spotlight, where experts say they often have an advantage. Some question how much government leaders of today truly listen to what the Pope has to say. And that, observers say, is a moral authority that can't be measured by economic strength or military divisions. A moral authority Benedict hopes to draw upon when meeting with U.S. officials and speaking before the United Nations. I'm Kim Lawton in Washington.
The Jesuit order, they also infiltrate every religion, especially Sunday churches. That's why Revelation chapter 17 called this power whore. Notice, the mother of harlot. Jesus Christ is the one who died for the whole world, and he's drawn everybody to himself. But this power, they don't want you to go to Jesus Christ. They want you to go to them and confess your sin to them. So notice what Revelation chapter 18 says. And they also infiltrate the kings, presidents. So notice. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen and is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the whole of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of her fornications. And notice, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will to the
United States.
And will to the
President of the United States.
And
on occasion it comes up that that I was the mentor of our president. It's only on occasion we get to interact with him.
Well, an occasion is fine, isn't it?
the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
The Obama administration is all in their nonstop effort to retain the power to send U.S. citizens to military prisons.
And why do you think it is that the Obama administration is so adamant about keeping this controversial provision in place?
I really can't speak to the motivation. All I can say is that on civil liberties issues, this president has been even more aggressive in eroding American civil liberties than George W. Bush. And it's really an unfortunate turn in our democracy. This has been occurring since 9/11, but the Obama administration has gone full in for drones. They've gone full in for targeted assassinations, including of American citizens. They've gone full in for warrantless wiretapping. And now they've gone full in for the right to detain American citizens in military prisons, thus circumventing our democracy and our judicial system. Why the president is doing this when he ought to know better as a constitutional law professor.
The Obama administration is openly escalating its campaign against private gun ownership and shaking up the top ranks of the military command structure. But is it also preparing to make war on the American population? According to a person identified as a former senior military official, the answer to that shocking question is yes.
You can't have a police state and an armed population, so there's no doubt they're going to take the guns away.
Well, a federal judge in the U.S. has ruled Washington cannot indefinitely detain Americans suspected of having terrorist ties unless they have been found in connection with the September 11th attacks. It comes just 6 months after President Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act, which would have allowed American citizens to be held without trial or charge. The judge initially ruled the act was unconstitutional last month, but the Obama administration asked her to reconsider the ruling.
The arrogance of Barack Hussein Obama is growing by leaps and bounds every day. So is his disrespect for the Constitution of our country, for the Constitution of the United States.
In fact, when President Obama was a senator, he voted to reinstate the Patriot Act in 2006. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, the Patriot Act threatens our First, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Eighth, and 14th Amendment.
Pope Francis met with the ecumenical and interreligious delegates March 20th, who had attended his inaugural Mass the day before. The representatives included Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, Sikh, and Jain leaders. Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew of Constantinople also had a private meeting with the new pope.
How can we be sure, brethren, that we are living upon the ends of the world are come? How can we be sure that we are living in the final verses of Daniel 11, 40 to 45? Look with me in Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 14. The Bible says in Zephaniah 1:14, it says here, the great day of the Lord is near. It is near and hasteth greatly, even the voice of the day of the Lord. The mighty man shall cry there bitterly. That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, a day of the trumpet, an alarm against the fenced cities and against the high tower. The day of the trumpet against the fenced cities and the high tower. What trumpet? What high towers? The high towers of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. What trumpet? The seventh trumpet, the third woe. Verse 17, and I will bring distress upon men, that they shall walk like blind men, because they have sinned against the Lord, and their blood shall be poured out as dust, and their flesh as the dung. In other words, after 9/11/2001, distress came upon the nations. Oh, was there distress upon the nations in the time period of the Millerites? Yes, it was. We'll deal with that later on. But notice now in verse 18, neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath, but the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy, for he shall make even a spitty radiance of all them that dwell in the land. What do you mean that their gold and silver won't be able to deliver them? Economic collapse, economic financial crisis. What happened on 9/11? The world was stirred with a spirit of war. All of a sudden, the President of the United States says, listen, you're either with us or you're with the terrorists. And they've been fighting in this 6-year, 7-year war, and what's happened as a result of that? 2008 economic crisis. Do you know that that's the same thing that the Spirit of Prophecy says in volume 9, page 11 to 14? It says that those that hold the reins of government are not able to solve the problems of moral corruption and poverty and increasing crimes. Says that they're struggling in vain to hold business operations on a more secure basis. We see that happening as a result of 9/11 and also that war that's been taking place. 9/11, economic crisis. What comes after the economic crisis? Chapter 2 and verse 1 tells us, gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired, before the decree bring forth, before the day passes the chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you. Seek ye the Lord, all you meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness, and may be you shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. The decree that's about to bring forth, the day that passes as the chaff, is the Sunday law.
We're here at Blessed Sacrament Parish, we are Change LA, to meet someone who has been nicknamed the Black Pope. He's actually the Jesuit general, and his name is Very Reverend Adolfo Nicholas S.J.
Better get in there. Yeah, that way.
We're here to say hi and talk to him about his nickname and his extreme oath of the Jesuits.
You just came out of a campaign, election, and the inauguration of a new president. We have been exposed to 1 year and a half of words and words and words, or even religious words, because also religious words have been manipulated. I am so happy we have a financial crisis.
Hello, I really enjoyed your service. Thank you so much. I was wondering, I had a couple of questions. I was wondering if you could clear something up for me.
Maybe later, because
just really quick. Why do they call you the Black Pope?
Oh, that started in the 19th century.
Did it really?
Yeah, but I don't like it because